Hello everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.
And welcome to part 4 of round 3 of the multi-topic extravaganza. So we're going to answer lots more of your questions today. We're going to be doing this for about a half hour. And then I think we're going to do at least one more round of this. We usually cap it off at 4, but we've got more questions. They've been really interesting this time, as I keep saying. And so we've been kind of giving them their due and spending some time on these and not rattling off real quick. Plus, we really enjoy the multi-topic extravaganza because whenever we do one of these, we have all of our topics nicely laid out for us already.
That's right.
Vince, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let me get my clock here so I can make sure that we're not talking for 5 hours. Here we go.
Clock.
Our first question for the day comes from Chili Bohm, who says, Cap, you said during Who Reviews the Reviewer Season 1 that hidden tracks at the end of albums can sometimes be problematic because they may leave the listener with a different impression than the original ending of the album. That sounds almost profound, and I don't remember saying that at all. Do you feel the same way about end credit stingers in movies? I left the theater after a film feeling one way, and then left the theater after the stinger of the same film feeling an entirely different way. That's very interesting. What do you think, Vince? How do you feel about stingers in general?
I like stingers, and I like those extra songs. You know what I don't like is I understand why they do it, because then they have a distinct ending to their album, and you leave it in. You don't think to turn it off because you figure it's going to turn it off by itself, right?
So you don't like it when there's a big stretch of time?
Yeah, I'd rather they just put the song somewhere within the album. I'd rather... I don't really like the stingers, but I like that they give you an extra song. I mean, I can respect the integrity of an album. Now, as for the...
Because the thing is, it wouldn't feel like an extra song if it was just on the album, because then you'd never know it was extra. Yeah, that's the only thing with that, right?
But,
it does become a problem when you put it in iTunes or something, right? Where when it's one of those like it's an extra song that's in the end of a track, so you got like a track that's actually 10 minutes because there's all this dead air.
Yeah, I like to take those and edit that out.
yeah, me too.
You know what I would recommend those people do if they want to give you an extra song is instead of putting it on the album, put the download in it. You know, give you a little code for a download. Down code. So.
Oh well, these days, sure. Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, I'm not sure that thing is done quite as often as it is now. I think the question is much more about stingers, just in relation to that. I am of two minds about the stinger thing. I enjoyed them a lot more when they didn't happen as often, and it seems like now, especially with superhero films, it's almost like standard at this point. Just the sheer number of them that have it, especially the Avengers films. I mean, I'm not sure Marvel can get away with not having one at this point. They always do one, and I think people at this point get kind of expect it sometimes and get almost they feel almost disappointed when it's not there. The thing about stingers for me is I kind of think that it's. And this is just me, I think it's more fun when it's either something that, gets you kind of pumped for a potential sequel, or is just kind of a funny thing, like the actual end credit stinger from Avengers, where it was just the shawarma thing. I think that kind of thing is fun, because you don't have to have it, and you don't necessarily have to have the thing with, even with, Thanos, where it's setting up for the next movie, but it really shouldn't be something that's gotta be in the film.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree. It should not be something that affects the plot of that movie, but to some extent, for example, Stinger in Daredevil, I didn't mind, where that mid-credit stinger of Bullseye showing that he's still alive.
I was going to bring up that one too. It's better where it originally was supposed to go, but it's fine the way it is in the theatrical version. I like things that give you a little bit extra, and I think that thing should be in keeping tonally with the movie that you just watched. Exactly, yeah. An example of one I don't like at all is the one in X3, where Professor X's mind is in this mutant that was set up earlier in the film. That's part of the movie. You know what I mean? That really shouldn't be that. You know at the end credits. So I don't think. But anyway,
I would agree with that. But
Mr. Marvel Fan 101, what do you guys think of Spider-Man Blue? Have you ever read Spider-Man Blue?
No, but it's on my list.
Yeah, mine too. So I'm sorry I don't have an opinion, but Spider-Man Blue, if you don't know, is another Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale thing, and I generally like them together. Not a big fan of Dark Victory, but it's not bad.
Dark Victory is okay. I mean, of course, Long Halloween's better. And then there's Daredevil Yellow, right?
Daredevil Yellow is great.
Yeah, I've not read that one either. But I'd like to.
Do you have a copy?
No.
I do have it if you want to borrow it. That's one I've got. The not so amazing Jake, would you want to see... Vince has to laugh every time I say his name. Vince thinks anything self-deprecating is funny. Would you like to see Arrow and the new Wonder Woman show, Amazon, exist in the same universe? By the way, Amazon is going to be really funny because when that show comes out, because it's called Amazon. And I just feel like I'm gonna have a really hard time not thinking about buying books and CDs and things every time I watch that show.
I feel like shopping online right now.
And on a related note, what comic book characters do you see translating better to television than film? Okay, that's interesting. Let's go to the first part. I will probably have more of an opinion on this than Vince. I'll go first on this one. I actually really love that you brought that up because that's actually the first thing I said when I heard about Amazon. I think they should be in the same universe. CW is going to do another show set in, based on something DC, and they've already got Arrow, and Arrow's pretty popular, and this is going to be pretty far removed from that. I'd love to see a little bit of crossover. I don't see any reason that they shouldn't be in the same universe. If I were them, I'd even spin it off, but that's just me, considering the fact that Arrow is popular enough, it's at least going to get another season, so... anyway, yeah, I really wish they would do that, and CW seems to have this thing kind of against spin-offs, man. Like, they never did it for Smallville. It was on for 10 years, and they had a lot of characters that they could have and that people wanted, and they never did that, and then, they did... that Aquaman pilot, which a lot of people thought should have been a spin-off from Smallville, and then that didn't make the series, and then they did Arrow, and, I'm glad at this point, because I'm kind of enjoying Arrow, that it's not a spin-off from Smallville, but at the same time, that makes me kind of think that maybe that won't happen, so anyway, I wish it was.
I could see it happening, based on the idea of the island far, far away, that, it makes sense that there would be an Amazonian island somewhere, or not necessarily that it makes sense, but it wouldn't be a stretch for the imagination so much. So I could see them doing it. Do I want them to do it? I don't care. It's not something that I have an opinion about.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that being that I'm kind of invested in Arrow, I'd like to see it myself, but, and then, what comic book characters do you see? Who do you think would translate better to television than to film?
That's a hard question because, generally speaking, I think things transfer to film better than television.
Well,
in the way of a lot of superheroes, but
I think so because of budget stuff. If money was no object, television would always be a better place for superheroes than film because superheroes are created almost exclusively for a month-to-month medium, right? I mean, you're talking about the same kind of medium, serialized stuff. So, it's no accident that the first superhero stuff we had on film was serialized. Batman and Superman in the Superman cartoons and stuff like that. Superman cartoons were serialized; they were standalone stories. But you know what I mean. Especially with Batman and with Captain Marvel and those early. By the way, if you've never seen that, it's actually quite good.
Captain Marvel series.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, those old serials, they translate well to that because it's a serialized kind of storytelling medium. So. Which ones would translate better, I think, is a difficult question to answer because I think that we have gotten so used to them being in standalone films. But think about how difficult a lot of these films have had, not just being dull kind of origin pictures setting up sequels. They're setting up sequels because we're used to these being serialized things where we set up a status quo and then we can tell an infinitum amount of stories in that universe.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And personally, when people start saying we need more live action or they want more live action TV shows, I don't care. I would rather they have a few really good animated features. I like the animated shows. I mean, Spectacular Spider-Man was really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, or Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes was really good. I mean, I like good animated shows. Why? Because you don't need to spend loads of money to get something that looks good. I mean, you spend enough money to get animators.
And I would say that you feel the same way I do about this, in that it's not somehow like more validated or more worthwhile because it's live action.
Right. It's just a different way of doing things, and I like live action things.
I can be just as invested in something animated if the characterization in the stories are there. Sure.
I tend to feel that if you're going to do something live action on TV, so I guess I'm going to answer the question. I like the idea of doing a lower key character. I like the idea of doing something
something more minimalistic that's a little easier to digest with that. Yeah.
Maybe something that you can do with decent editing and choreography. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing a question one, but
that
Blue
was the
Beetle
first one
would
that
be
came to
difficult.
my head. Yeah, it would.
Because there's a lot of tech.
And that was supposed to happen. Yeah, there was... in fact, we were talking about that last year. I don't know what happened to it, but that was supposed to happen.
You know what I wouldn't mind seeing is a Blue Beetle one with, like, extremely low tech, where he's just getting his feet and his tech doesn't work right. And he looks kind of funny. I mean, that'd be really interesting to have sort of, not necessarily tongue-in-cheek, but a guy who's stumbling through his way, like Ted Cord being a rich guy, stumbling his way through becoming a superhero.
The ones that strike me, I don't think would be especially popular. I mean, I think it would be difficult to keep them on. I think The Phantom would make a great TV show.
I would agree with that.
I mean, like a lot of your favorite stuff, I think, is minimalistic enough, or you could do minimalistic enough that it would make more sense for television. I think The Shadow would make a great television show, considering the fact that it was radio serials forever. Doesn't that make sense? Just translate it. I'd love to see a Shadow show where you barely ever saw the guy. Like
something that makes a good TV show. Zorro.
Zorro, sure, yeah.
Considering it had a very long stint on TV.
Zorro did?
Well, not necessarily very long, but Disney made a TV show.
Of Zorro?
Of Zorro, yeah. Back in the 60s.
I didn't even know that. Yeah. Really?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think it was 65 to 60. There was definitely 2 seasons, and then they had some TV movies that they made that kind of...
Huh. I don't know how I didn't know that.
Shorter 3rd season.
Wow. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on. Homer Lurvy. Hey, Captain Vince.
Hi.
Do you think in the new Man of Steel movie they should explain what kryptonite is, but not use it in the final fight, so they don't have to introduce it in sequels, or leave it out until sequels with Lex Luthor and trust that the fans will know what it is? Let's just pretend like there is no kryptonite. Let's do that. And then if they need it for a later film or whatever, and they want to do it in some clever way, sure. But I mean, like, I really enjoyed that in the Bruce Timm series, you got a few episodes before kryptonite popped up, and then they actually did an episode where Superman didn't even know what it was, and then it was I think the episode was called something like a little piece of home or something, and
that's kind of cool.
I really liked that. Yeah. So no, I think there's cool ways to do it. I don't think you've got to go, hey, look, here's Superman's weakness, so that you know that he's got one. If
I think it's pretty much standard knowledge now, or common knowledge rather.
Yeah, well, and I mean, like, it, since we're doing a new, rebooted universe, it won't be standard for the universe, but, like, yeah, you don't need to tell us, we all know what it is, sure, and you've also got Zod as your villain, and so you don't need kryptonite, because you got Zod. Zod can generally actually beat Superman, so, potentially, so there you go.
What I would love is if they would introduce kryptonite in a slightly different way. I've always thought it made more sense that kryptonite would sap his powers rather than hurt him or kill him.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea that...
I mean, alter what exactly it does to him.
Yeah, like maybe the piece of home just changes his ability to absorb the rays of the sun. So therefore he's not as powerful as he is generally.
And then something else could kill him because he'd be weakened.
Yeah.
Potentially, yeah. Okay.
I think that's a much better idea than what they've been doing.
Okay, this one is potentially opening a can of worms. I think this question would be a great video, so we might want to touch on this and come back to it. Rockman LP, in Superhero Rewind, you've praised movies that give the audience some credit, because that's always good, and let them figure certain things out on their own. That's something I also appreciate. My question is, as reviewers, no, we're not going to ask the question, do we prefer debit or credit? My question is, as reviewers, and this is appropriate since Rockman LP is a contestant this season on Who Reviews the Reviewers. As reviewers, are we guilty of thinking for the audience, and if so, how is that different? It's a really interesting question. I have complained. I'll go first because obviously you need to noodle this, and I knew this question was coming. I have complained before about commentary tracks where directors feel the need, or directors or writers or whomever it is, feel the need to tell you exactly what the film they made is supposed to mean. Because I feel, and I mean, we were taught this in writing school, but it's also not me drinking the Kool-Aid. This is something I always thought, that pieces should really stand on their own. It can be fun to get background knowledge of people who made something, because sometimes you get a little bit more insight about what it was, but don't come out and tell me what your piece means. Let it stand for itself. What he's asking is, as reviewers, are we part of that problem? Is it bad that that we're telling other people who have seen the film what we think it means because because those people should get some of that stuff for themselves? And my response, as you might suspect, is no, absolutely not. Because what I try to do, and what I think a lot of good reviewers do and should do, is opening a dialogue. So what you're doing is you're giving this is merely an art form. This is something that's existed forever. You know what I mean? Critical analysis of work, critical analysis of fiction or of poetry or whatever art it is. You can't have enough analysis of something that is worth being analyzed. Now, what is worth being analyzed is an entirely different topic, and I won't talk about that right now. But you see what I mean? That if you are broadening somebody's mind by going, hey, I bet you haven't thought of it like this before, I don't think you're spoon-feeding them. I don't think you're giving them too much, because unless they haven't watched it, and that's their problem. They have a chance to think of all the stuff you did when they watch it. Now, they may not have the background you have, they may not have the education you have, and they're a different person, so they also might not agree with you, you know what I mean? So they might not come up with it because they wouldn't have thought that it was valid from their side of things. But I think what's important is to not get the idea that you find one reviewer that you think is... I'm sorry, I'm talking too long. You find one reviewer that you think is really insightful and knows what they're talking about, and then you only watch that guy and you agree with everything he says because you think you're supposed to. That's a problem. Watch different people, get different ideas, and then while you're doing that, develop your own. That's the point of reviewing. I'm done.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. So, I had something else I was going to add. Oh, something that gives a validation for critical analysis. Well, one, there's varying different ways that you can interpret anything. So, like, somebody might read, let's say, what was that thing from back in the day? Faust, or Dr. Faustus. And there's a way of...
Yeah, those are different things.
Yeah, Dr. Faustus. So somebody reads the play Dr. Faustus, and then they read a bunch of Calvinist themes into it about predestination as to whether people are predestined to go to heaven or predestined to go to hell. So that can be read into it. But, you can read it without that. You can make an argument both ways. And you can make an argument that there are different themes, or that has no Calvinist themes, but rather it has very traditional themes about about very traditional ideas that the actions that you do get you to heaven or to hell.
Sure.
And so it's just... There are different ways to read things, and the only reason I bring that up is that I did a paper on Calvinist themes in Dr. Faustus.
Yeah.
So... it was right there in my mind. But that's I'm going to say that I don't really think that or maybe critics are guilty of giving the audience too much credit. Maybe?
What do you mean?
Maybe critics are they say it's good that a movie gives the audience credit. Well, maybe some people need it spelled out for them. I don't think that's fair to I feel like we should set a bar and have people, progressively get smarter as they watch things and read things.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
my point. But I mean, that's my opinion.
Which, if you're thinking, you're gonna.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
But so So yeah, I agree with everything he said.
Goliath 10, could you break down the criteria you use for your ratings?
Go for it. You have...
Yes, I can. So, people have asked me before why I use the 0 to 4 scale. Part of it is because, like a lot of people, I grew up on Siskel and Ebert, and I love the 4-star rating scale. Now, I use it the same way that they do, where I also give halves. So the reason I do it is because it's because it's an even number. And I like things that are symmetrical. So what having an even scale affords you, whether it's 1 to 4, whether it's 0 to 4, whether it's 1 to 10. My difficulty with 1 to 10 or 0 to 10 is just in deciding the difference between a 6 and a 7 or a 7 and an 8. I find that kind of difficult. So if it's a 1. I think that it's a bad film, and it doesn't there's not very much merit to it. Maybe not nothing. If it was nothing, it would be a 0. I've done that one time. If it's a 2, it's just really run of the mill. It's right. I mean, that's right in the middle. It should be. It's average. It's average. Yeah. 1 is below average. 2 is average. 3 is good.
Above average.
3 is above average. It's a good film. And 4 is wicked awesome. So, there you go.
Wicked awesome.
And his second question is, what are the biggest things that make a reboot necessary? Wow. What makes a reboot necessary?
I would say when your continuity becomes muddled by things that were done in the previous whatever you're watching, reading, or doing. So, I mean... X3 might have made a reboot necessary. Of course, they just went back and did a, oh my goodness, prequel. I couldn't think of the word prequel. But
that a lot of people took as a reboot, and but you're right.
So yeah,
that was almost a reboot of sorts, even though it wasn't rebooting continuity. It was sort of a reboot in the direction it was going. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think there were a couple different meanings of that word too.
I feel like. For a reboot, it's when you need to cut your losses, where you've just run a property into the ground and it's time to do something different.
Well, see, I'm not sure that it's always that way, because then of course you've got things like the Nolan Batman films where that ended on that ended in such a way where it was like highly successful. So maybe sometimes you have to reboot when the other thing is over.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think over necessarily means in a negative way, right? Like that's just over.
I feel like it's important to, and we might even have to do this one as a topic.
Sure.
I feel finality is an important thing. I feel like we need a discernible ending to a lot of things. That
I don't think we need a discerning ending to everything.
No, not everything.
I don't even think necessarily Nolan's Batman films had to have a definite ending.
Well, I mean, if Nolan's not going to come back and do them...
Well, then it needs an ending in such a way where... But I mean, I don't even think it would have had to have had an ending where... And this is nothing about whether or not like that ending works. I'm just saying that I don't think it would have had to have ended with Batman stops being Batman. That's not the only way to end that, I don't think. Yeah. I mean, I think it still could have ended with Batman continues being Batman. Maybe you forward it a bunch of years and he's 50 and he hangs up the cape of cow because he's too old or something. You know, whatever. But I'm just saying that I think you need a definitive ending in the sense that there's no reason to make more. But that wouldn't mean that the characters wouldn't continue doing what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think if the vision of the creator is going to be passed on to another person, you better make sure that guy knows what they're doing, or it's time to end it and let the next guy use his own vision rather than trying to replicate the one that came before.
And I also don't think that every reboot that's ever happened has been necessary, and I don't think that every reboot that has been successfully, every time that things have been successfully rebooted, it couldn't have continued being successful the other direction. You know what I mean? I don't think this question is necessarily implying that every time a reboot has happened it's necessary, but I feel the need to say that, So I don't know. I think that necessary is a very strong word. I think it's very difficult. Could we have come back from Batman and Robin? Maybe. Just because that was a bad film, could you have not made more movies in that continuity? Considering the fact that that Batman Forever looks so very different from Batman Returns. I mean, we've already done this in this continuity where we've continued making things in the same continuity but made them look kind of different. Yeah, you could have come back to Sirius, sure.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I was about to say. So go right ahead.
I think that then you've got things like, I guess I'm just talking about superhero because that's what we do. There are other examples. Was the 007 reboot necessary? No. Am I glad we got it? Yeah, Skyfall. But if you go look at, and yes, Casino Royale, but Skyfall. If you go back and look at Superman, for instance. Okay, could we have come back from Superman 4 if Christopher Reeve hadn't gotten injured and wanted to make more? Yeah, sure. I mean, the movie's goofy and it didn't have any money, but it didn't kill the franchise to the point where you couldn't make more if you wanted to. I don't think anybody even thought when 4 came out that there would have been a 4. So I mean, like, would you even have any reason to keep making those? I think if it's been 17 or 20 years since the last movie, or it wasn't quite that long, but I mean, like I think if it's been that long and all of the principal cast is done or too old or they've passed away, I think that's a pretty good time to reboot. I think Superman Returns was the time to reboot. I think that's an example where we're trying to do something close to that original continuity was a bad idea. I say this in hindsight because I've seen the film now. You know what I mean? But I wasn't saying that when it came out, but I said it after I saw it.
I mean, part of the trouble you run into is that people have a lot of respect for what came before, and then they have a certain interpretation of what they saw.
Oh, so, yeah, sure.
Singer's vision of Superman Returns is, of course, a little bit different than Donner's vision of Superman, and it's really not. I mean, you can try to emulate something. You could even try to do karaoke, but it's not going to be exactly the same.
Yeah, that's great. Good job. Mr. Deadpool fan, who is the best writer in comics ever, and who is the worst writer in comics ever? Wow. All right. So I want to preface this with I don't know the answer to that question.
I mean, you can point at the most successful and the least successful, sure.
But I mean, like, I feel like if I were to have to definitively come down on one or the other, I'm gonna be married to that decision forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't want to be mean enough to say worst writer in comics ever, because first of all, I have a tendency when I read something I don't like to not really look at that guy all that much again. You know what I mean? Like, and then if somebody's like, "Oh no, this thing was really good," then I might give it a try. So like most of the writers that I'm thinking of, we're talking about just writers, aren't we? Yeah. Most of the writers in comics that I'm thinking of right now, like there's at least one thing that they did that I kind of liked. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't think of anybody where I'm like everything they do is bad. I know you don't like Frank Miller.
Well, but even then, I mean, year one is still good.
Like. Yeah, and his Daredevil's amazing.
Yeah, his Daredevil's good. His, I mean, of course, Dark Knight Returns is good.
Yeah,
but
Kevin Smith's got books that I like and books I don't like.
Yeah, his run on Daredevil's fantastic.
Yeah,
but
I've heard things about Whiting Gyre that maybe not want to read that book. You know, so there's things like that.
And he has movies like Red State that I think are just terrible.
So yeah, that's really hard. And then best writer in comics is difficult there too, because it's like, can you think of a writer that's it may be easier than worst, right? Like can you think of a writer where their track record is spotless, where they never wrote anything that you just didn't like, or that wasn't even mediocre, right?
No. I mean, there are writers that I like more than others, and one of my, it's a harsh reality when you run into something that's just terrible. And it's from one of the people that you love. I love Garth Ennis's work, but some of it's really, really bad. Dix was not a good story, meaning Private Detectives, but
yeah,
it was terrible. Oh, my nose itches so much because I'm thinking about how bad that comic was.
I mean, like, I'm doing Spawn year after a whole lot of or after several episodes of that. You can tell that I don't think Todd McFarlane's a very good writer, but. Did he write some issues I liked? Yeah. So I don't know. I don't want to cop out on this, but I don't know how to answer this question.
My instinct was to say one of the best artists in comics is Jim Lee. One of the worst writers in comics is Jim Lee. But that's not fair. I mean, I was going to make that joke mainly based on the one of the very few Jim Lee written things that I've read, which was Heroes Reborn Fantastic Four. And it wasn't a very well written story, but it was a very pretty looking book.
Well, then you got like Liefeld, who gets made fun of all the time, but I don't know if he's really written very much.
Yeah, I mean,
he created some characters. I know he's done some writing, and I'm sure it's not that great, but I don't know because I haven't read it. So yeah.
And also, some people are writers and some people are artists, and some people dabble. So.
And then you got Loeb, who is the dictionary definition of hit and miss.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, it's so weird that some of the stories that I love more than any other story is written by Jeff Loeb. And then there are stories that I hate and despise more than any other story written by Jeff Loeb.
Isn't that crazy? I think maybe there is a definitive answer to this. Now, I don't know if this would be my answer, but I feel the need to say this because I think this is something that a lot of people would say. So bear with me for a minute. I think some people would say, I'm just going to say this because I think it's funny. I think some people would say that the best writer, and you're going to wince when I say this, but I think you'll like this. I didn't think you'd wince quite that hard. I haven't even said it yet. The best writer in comics ever was pre-1990s Frank Miller. And the worst writer in comics ever is 1990s and forward Frank Miller.
I mean, even then, I understand why you say that, but even then, I'm like, influential is more of a better word than best.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know how to answer that. But thanks for making us think about it, because
I appreciate your gusto, but but I can't say yes or no to anybody.
Magpie2541, with your being a writer, what advice do you have for those having a bit of writer's block or just a lack of ideas for the stories they are telling? Go ahead, Vince.
Oh my God. Watch and read more. Get as much in your diet as you can. Diet meaning, what you're watching and reading and all of that stuff. Because I found that I had less ideas when I was watching and reading less and just sitting here trying to come up with something.
Oh yeah, and that's true of everybody.
Yeah,
sure.
Watch and read more.
That is the first thing, and I think that there's another big component to it also. Actually a couple. So write and read more, and get out of your house. Travel. Really, yeah. It's really helpful. Some writers talk about people watching, that sort of thing. Just go interact with people. Not even necessarily just like sitting around and looking at how people talk and that kind of. And like observation is key. But I'm not even certain that it has to be like deliberate observation. Just go experience the world and get out of your house. That's one thing. And I think another thing is. You can help writer's block in the same way that you can help prevent yourself from being overweight, and that is diet and exercise. I really think that because your brain works better when you're eating well, and it works better when you have physical activity, and so you're likely to come up with better ideas with stuff like that. And when you're doing that, so
I like everything about that analogy. That was highly pleasing to me.
Well, and again, it's not even just an analogy, though. Really, good diet and good exercise, I think also helps your writing, just like it does, helping you lose weight or staying fit.
Just to add something to what you said,
sure.
I had a teacher once whose name escapes me, but he said, "What are you studying?" He was a super old guy, very nice, but he's like, "What are you studying?" And I said,
Mr. Snuggleworth.
"What are you studying?" And I said,
did he have a cat, Vince?
He was petting his cat, had a ring on, it was really weird. And
I think we're hitting inside joke territory. Go ahead.
And our fans from the beginning are going, "Oh, it's that guy."
How badly do I want to break into Mr. Snuggleworth right now? Go ahead.
But what he said to me was, "What are you studying?" And I said, "Well, I'm studying writing." And I said, "I'm an English degree, specifically creative writing."
Did you say you are an English? I'm an English degree.
I'm an English degree. People earn me.
When I got
I'm studying English.
When I got my diploma, somebody just handed me a Vince. And I rolled up. Look at me. I'm an English degree. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But I said I was an English major, specifically creative writing, and he said, "Well, what are you doing here?" He said, "You should be out in a bar somewhere, chatting with people, just learning people's lives and habits and stuff." And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. Well, I guess since academia thinks I need your class, I'll probably keep attending."
I think if you had said that to fewer teachers, you might have gotten along with more of them.
He and I got along pretty well. It was weird. He always stood right in the middle of the classroom with his back to half the students. Well, you had the same guy. I forget his name. Landsberg.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice guy.
I remember him.
A little quirky, we'll call him that.
Well, Vince, we are all out of time
What?
for today's multi-topic
One more?
extravaganza.
must?
Well, I'm looking at them, and I think the next couple are going to take us a while. So,
okay.
I think we should save them for next time. And anyway, thanks everybody for watching as always. I don't know about you, Vince. I'm really, really enjoying this one more than I ever have before with the multi-topic extravaganza. It's like every question is just like
So we'll definitely have one more.
at least, yeah.
And we might even have another.
Maybe another one, yeah. We want to thank you guys for being so thoughtful and interesting and giving us really cool things to talk about. Always appreciate it, and we never get sick of doing it. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince, reminding you to support your local comic book store.
We'll see you next week. You guys want to see Vince's Pac-Man impression? Watch out, white dots.